The world is a crazy place, and the way it's organized is surely crazy, but we have to be crazy enough to see what that way is if we're really going to understand this physical world.
Life truly begins at the edge of one's comfort zone, the place where fear dances with possibility. But how many times has life tried to shake you awake, yet you return to the familiar? Sometimes a sudden accident can change our life overnight. Other times, a heartbreaking shift might have temporarily broken the cognitive patterns you have built. And yet, you chose to stay in your familiar reality. You chose to cling to the bubble of certainty, to your crafted illusion of control. We all wish to do the impossible, be extraordinary, and realize our highest potential. But very few dare to walk the extra mile down the lane. While many dream of greatness, only a few possess the courage to move beyond the confines of their comfort. The mile less traveled is the uncharted territory. It is lined with the scary unknown, a vast expanse filled with uncertainty. And the unknown has always had this power over us. It can feel intimidating, destabilizing, and often seems impossible to navigate. This is because our primitive brain has been wired to seek safety in patterns, repetition, and the familiar. Therefore, when we encounter something that is out of the ordinary, our first and instantaneous reaction is to retreat with fear or to shy away and cling to the comfort of what we already know. But spiritual masters, mystics, and thought leaders like George Gurdjieff have always been aware of this deeply rooted, flawed tendency of humans, that we tend to move through life in a state of unconsciousness, as if we are sleepwalking through our existence. They understood that this state of slumber is not simply accidental. It is a shared delusion that society and the environment around us are pushing us in. Also, it is the result of how most humans approach life, without intention, without active self-reflection, and without a willingness to confront their own inadequacies. Therefore, teachers like Gurdjieff use their will, knowledge, and techniques to familiarize us with our blind spots. The elites benefiting from the status, however, never admired such whistleblowers. This is why Gurdjieff was investigated by the FBI. During his time in the United States, George Gurdjieff came under scrutiny by US government intelligence agencies. This was due to his unconventional ideas, esoteric teachings, and powerful affiliations during the 20th century. You notice the pattern. The people who benefit from the system would never want the system to change. They have all the reasons to ensure it keeps on going forever. Why would they disrupt a system that serves their interests so well? Whether it's power, privilege, wealth, or influence, these individuals are deeply invested in maintaining the status quo because it upholds their position and satisfies their greed. The ordinary man might suffer, but those in power often have very little concern for the well-being and fulfillment of those below them, while an ordinary man spends all his life being a victim of his circumstances. Those who understand the game of life stay at the top and profit off of the vulnerabilities and ignorance of the majority. But if you want to move out of the herd, then this video is for you. Fortunately, the timeless wisdom shared by brilliant minds like Gurdjieff remains accessible to us today, and anyone can test those ideas to shift the trajectory of their lives. Therefore, in today's video, you will not only understand how you have been creating your own life problems, but will also explore George Gurdjieff's profound ideas and techniques that can break you out of your shackles. So, if you're ready to grasp this life-changing wisdom and unlock new possibilities, let's jump into the video. Gurdjieff was convinced that most of man's problems stemmed from one source: his inability to awaken his latent power. This power, according to Gurdjieff, is the spark of the divine within each individual. This sacred and eternal essence connects humanity to the greater cosmos and the infinite intelligence that hides behind all that is apparent. Man is asleep, and most spend their entire lives without ever growing curious about the nature of reality. Most of us sleepwalk through life without ever fully waking up. This sleep is not literal but metaphorical, and it keeps us chained to our miseries and habitual patterns. Think of this sleep as a semi-conscious state of being in which we are not aware of the absolute truth, but keep buying into the illusion being presented to us. In this state, we essentially operate on an autopilot mode. From a tender age, we start acquiring habits. These habitual patterns are established over years of experience and repetition through exposure to cultural expectations, family traditions, or societal norms. And over time, they become a permanent part of our psychology without us ever knowing about them on a conscious level. They become mental blueprints through which we live our lives. For instance, you have one mental blueprint for your personal life, which includes your self-image and interactions with your closest relationships. Then, you have another for your social life, encompassing how you interact with others, the roles you assume in social settings, and the norms you adhere to within your particular community or society. Yes, these mental blueprints can provide the structure and consistency we need, but they can also limit our growth. Think about it. How many times when you wake up in the morning do you consciously think about the day ahead? How often do you take time to set intentions, reflect on your purpose, or consider the opportunities that the day holds? Most likely, you don't. Like a machine, you get up, wash yourself, check the social media and the latest news, get your breakfast, and go on with your usual day. It almost seems like an invisible program is guiding you, and it most definitely is. This is the finest example of sleepwalking through life. It points to the fact that you have indeed become a machine, a pre-programmed robot. Hence, you are operating out of habit, routine, and societal expectations, rather than making deliberate, intentional choices that would lead you to the happiness, success, and fulfillment you desire. These routines are not necessarily harmful, but they do keep us in the known, the familiar. So, we become slaves to our reality. Your habitual existence also keeps you bound to suffering, missed opportunities, and the unfulfilling cycle of unconscious living. It might not register to you at first, but the weight of unfulfilled potential weighs heavily on your soul. You are a metaphysical being. Each one of us is. None of us ventured into this time-space reality with the intention of being chained to the illusion of reality. We came as explorers and creators of this 3D reality. So, every single moment spent reacting mechanically rather than living with intention is another moment spent trapped in the fog of inertia. It is a sheer waste of our time and potential. As our age advances, we become aware of this inadequacy on a deeper level. This is why you often see that older people become consumed by the great regret of not living up to their true potential. But if it is their condition and environment that is keeping them from ever waking up, then one needs to ask a pivotal question in this equation. This is the question that Gurdjieff dared to put forth, and therefore he was labeled a heretic. The question is, if the majority of the human race is programmed to live unconsciously, then who is benefiting from our sleep? Think about this for a second. Why are we all programmed into mental slavery from a young age? If this path of unconscious living is unfolding for most, then why is there not a call for change? Who really has the power, resources, or control to ensure that the masses remain stuck in this state of inertia, unable or unwilling to wake up to their true potential? The answer is clear as day. A population that is unaware, reactive, and disengaged is far easier to control than one that is awake, conscious, and actively questioning their reality. As we said earlier, the status quo always benefits the few who develop the system in the first place, and these benefits come at the expense of others. Gurdjieff suggested that breaking free from this mechanical state requires awareness, becoming a witness to one's own actions and thought processes, and choosing to respond intentionally rather than automatically. You must understand that for Gurdjieff, the great human awakening was not merely a philosophical concept, but a practical and transformative process central to human evolution. Gurdjieff was known for teaching his spiritual concepts through practical methods. He believed that true understanding came from direct experience and active participation in the process of change, rather than passive intellectual contemplation. His distinct approach to self-development is called the fourth way. The first important part of the fourth way paradigm is understanding the importance of the present moment. The human mind is in a constant state of motion. It never truly rests. It dances between the memories of the past and the anxieties of the future all the time. The past, though unchangeable, often holds regrets, nostalgia, or unresolved pain, while the future becomes a canvas for endless uncertainties and endless what-ifs. When we fixate on either of these two, we detach ourselves from the present moment, the place of magic and creation. The present is a sacred space of infinite possibilities, where we can access clarity, peace, and even gain the remarkable ability to shape our reality consciously. Most of us spend our entire lives believing that the next moment would bring us the comfort and fulfillment we desire. Gurdjieff called this the disease of tomorrow. In his words, he who has freed himself of the disease of tomorrow has a chance to attain what he came for. Here, Gurdjieff is referring to the fact that we all are constantly worrying, fearing, or planning the future on some level. Everyone you meet or communicate with is stuck with a fear of what lies ahead. It can range from anxiety about career progression, fear of illness, concerns about financial stability, worries about relationships, or even existential questions about the meaning of life. It is important to recognize that all these fears and worries stem from the mind's inclination to seek safety, stability, and predictability as a means of survival. Our brains are wired to seek certainty, but in this 3D world, nothing is certain. Despite your very best efforts in controlling the trajectory of your life, you will eventually fail because there are just too many variables in the equation. So, what is the point of worrying if things are not in our control anyway? This habit limits us from ever rejoicing in the present moment, which is all we ever have. Gurdjieff knew that to acknowledge one's tendency of clinging to habitual patterns, the individual had to be presented with the unknown. So, Gurdjieff would often set up gatherings with his students and then would change the venue at the very last moment. These last-minute changes would take students out of their routines, forcing them to confront their reactions to unfamiliarity and unpredictability. And the unpredictability of new environments created opportunities for self-observation and the acknowledgement of their deeply wired mechanical responses. Another potent idea Gurdjieff introduced in his work is the concept of intentional suffering. Buddha said, "Life is suffering," and this suffering mainly arises because of our attachments to things, places, and outcomes. But the problem is that most of us suffer passively or accidentally. Going by this route, we endure life's hardships without gaining anything out of that experience on a conscious level. Therefore, Gurdjieff introduced a different concept, the idea of willingly accepting discomfort and struggle as a means of growth and spiritual evolution. Intentional suffering requires sacrificing one's ego and pride. When an individual is no longer controlled by his ego, he can endure humiliation and take responsibility for his shortcomings. While these sacrifices may appear to be huge and emotionally draining in the moment, down the lane, they lead to a more resilient mind and spirit. To teach the concept of intentional suffering, Gurdjieff was known to encourage his students to take on tasks that were outside their comfort zone. These tasks consisted of rigorous and demanding work, as well as intense physical exercises that helped the students cultivate inner strength, presence, and resilience. So, now that you are aware of Gurdjieff's core concepts, it's time to harness this knowledge for your personal transformation. To guide your journey toward awakening, here's a powerful 5-step protocol rooted in his teachings. This primary step involves becoming aware of who you are behind all your automated responses and routines, and therefore, it requires observing yourself as objectively as possible. You must notice how you react in various situations, what triggers your emotions, and how your mind operates on autopilot. Every day, take some time to sit with yourself and reflect on your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Think about the emotions and behaviors that are taking you towards your desired future, and work to discard everything that doesn't align with the person you want to be. Your ability to awaken is directly correlated with your ability to stay grounded in the present moment. The present moment is where you can find your joy and creative solutions to all your problems. So, sit in a quiet and comfortable place with the sole intention of connecting to the present moment. Gently close your eyes and then focus on your breathing. Let each inhale and exhale relax you on a deeper level. Then, focus on each part of your body and intentionally relax your muscles in that area. Start with your head. Feel your head and all the sensations contained within it. Next, mentally relax all the muscles in your head. After scanning your head, move down towards your neck and shoulders. Keep relaxing every body part until you reach all the down to your feet. By the end of this exercise, you will feel much calmer and safely grounded in the present moment. The more you will do this exercise, the easier connecting with the present moment will become. Rather than running away from discomforts, walk towards them. This is embracing the notion of intentional suffering, and it is absolutely necessary for your evolution. Willingly take on tasks or responsibilities that would require you to move out of the familiar and would push you into the unknown. At first, stepping into the unknown would feel daunting, but the more often you say yes to such work, the more comfortable you would grow with the process. As you go about your day, do not forget who you are. Your mind will trick you into incessant and useless chatter. The moment you give in to this internal chatter, you become an automated machine. To break out of this automated loop, you must regularly pause and remind yourself of your conscious intention to wake up. This is similar to being mindful during your daily activities. Whether you are walking, eating, working, or engaging with others, make it a point to step back and observe yourself in the moment. Ask yourself, am I fully present right now? Am I consciously choosing my responses, or am I operating on autopilot? The Law of Seven, referred to by Gurdjieff as the first fundamental cosmic law, is a principle used to explain the cyclical nature of processes in the universe. According to Gurdjieff, nothing happens in a linear fashion. Everything follows a pattern of rises and falls, often forming parabolic or cyclical waves that repeat over time. This pattern of rise and fall will also become a part of your life experience. You would go through the highest of highs and some soul-crushing lows on your path towards evolution. So, you need to embrace this natural ebb and flow. If you resist this natural cycle, you will be doomed to failure and misery forever. The lows of your journey are often the times when the deepest learning occurs, as they push you to evolve and adapt in ways you may not have anticipated.